So we are live on episode 18 of the Blue Crocus Experience, and I'm here with Shawn Day of Blue Skies Recruiting. And we're one of the issues that I hear everyone talk about as I get more and more in touch with contractors and everything is personnel. And that's Shawn's been a business owner for years, owned several businesses, and he now works helping other business owners find good people. And I had about an hour-long call with him there about a week ago, and we discussed the process that he's developed with other people. And it's a really fine-tuned process to get you to get service-based businesses finding people. So we didn't touch on it a whole lot there, but one of the things I want to dive into once you kind of give a more in-depth version of what I just said is, once you have people, like, how do you keep them? So I'd like to touch on that at some point in here, but if you want to give the non-Coles Notes version of what I just went through and kind of introduce yourself and take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It was real good talking to you last week. I kind of feel like we've known each other a little bit for a while. I mean, when you get on a phone call, don't know who the hell you're talking to, and over an hour goes by. It was very good stuff, and I'm glad you're really diving into what you're doing too. It's important, and it's a funny thing because what you do is you're more of on the demand side of things, right? You go after and you're creating demand. Yeah. And I'm on the capacity side of it, and there's nothing more difficult and nothing more important than matching capacity and demand in a business. Meaning, how many customers do you have to take care of, and do you have the employees? That's the demand side and the capacity side. But I owned a cleaning company for 20 years in Cleveland, Ohio area. I owned a mortgage company for 10 years prior to that, and I have got a couple of things. I got a lot of things, different things going on. But
yeah, you do. You're telling me a bit about it. You got a lot in the works here.
Yeah. So with Blue Skies Recruiting, what the kind of long version is this. I sold my cleaning company. My wife and I were talking about selling the cleaning company, and I said, we've been doing this a couple decades. Let's position it to sell, and it'll probably take 3 to 5 years to get my books cleaned up and get my stuff. I have my systems I have a pretty successful business, but you want to clean it up and really polish it up so you can get top value for it. And I said maybe 3, 4, 5 years, honey, and we'll be in good shape to sell it. Well, after that conversation, we sold it 3 months later. And it was a strange, I can go through the whole process. It was a couple emails, couple clicks, and the next thing I knew, it was sold to Blue Sky Services. Blue Sky Services owned an exterior cleaning company, power washing and window cleaning, really nice, a few businesses out towards Minnesota and Portland and a couple other places. And they wanted to add interior cleaning. That was my gig. And we merged, they bought some of my company. And so our business model at that point was, how do we grow this thing now? And now that we got together, and so we started buying other companies. So that was our game plan, acquisition.
Because you stayed with Blue Sky Services, right? And like they kind of got you as part of the deal.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. We were talking about maybe I stay on board with the transition, and then I'm like, if you guys, I'm getting up there in age. I don't need another job after this. If you want to keep me on, great. If not, let me know. I can do some things. And they said, let's sign you up, man. And that was 4 years ago. And so what happened was we thought we were really good, pretty good at recruiting because we didn't really have too many problems with it with our existing offices. But when we started to buy other companies, George and Fred own a company for 30 years and you buy it, there's 40 cleaning technicians and 7 of them walk out the door the day you show up. So we had to get really, really good at recruiting. I was fed up. I was frustrated. And I said, everybody leave me alone. Give me a little bit of time, and I'm going to come up with a world-class recruiting system. So our own companies were no longer short-staffed and worried. And that's what we did. And I when I say there was more than just me, but we put an automated recruiting system together along with a specific game-changing strategy that we use. And it is extremely rare that we're ever short-staffed and we're growing. And that's a good, beautiful thing to have as a no longer a problem.
Yeah.
That's kind of the long, short version of it.
Yeah, and I don't know how deep you're going to get into this as we chat, but basically he peeled back like Shawn, you peeled back the the curtains a bit when we were chatting, and kind of gave me the pitch that you give business owners. And guys, this is an incredible system. This is, definitely talk to Shawn if you're having trouble with recruiting. I know there's some tree guys that reached out when I posted that that we had chatted, but he went through the whole process with me, and stuff that like Fortune 500 companies are doing. My background is in engineering before I did what I'm doing now. And, some of the big engineering companies in my area, that's the kind of processes that they're using to recruit people, down to like personality tests, kind of batching people without, making it sounds a little weird when you say it, but basically getting a bunch of metrics figured out for what exactly the person, say I'm the tree service or the pressure washing company or the cleaning company owner. I tell Shawn exactly what I want out of a person, and he puts that in metrics, and then when people come through, they kind of get sorted out. And so, by the time he gives you the few people you need to interview, they've been sorted extremely well, based on exactly the properties, and without dehumanizing it too much, but the things that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And I was extremely impressed.
One of the things that is a common denominator of the things that we had a challenge with, and let me take one more step back. One of the things I always tell people is we're colleagues before we're a vendor or a service, a recruiting service, because to this day we own cleaning companies. I'm recruiting in Minnesota for our window cleaning company out there, and we're all over the place. We got 7 companies, something like that. So we're colleagues first. We never intended to start a recruiting service.
Yeah.
It was only for our internal operations. And the next thing I know, as we were buying other companies, we were growing. We're well known in the industry because we love hanging out with everybody. We love other business owners that are kind of blue collar guys and gals out there. We love it. And so what happened was I'm on the phone about 10, 15 hours a week going, well, this is how we're doing it. This is how I got this. And so I'm scratching my head. We got together and said, I think we have a business here. We already have the system for our own company. And really all we're doing is adding people. So the common denominator that seems to be the biggest problem is this. Application flow comes in. It's pretty easy to get application flow. There's some job boards, Indeed, for example. You can get free stuff on there, and Facebook. There's a lot of ways you can get application flow. That's usually not the problem. The problem is here's what I hear: they all suck. They all suck. That's what I hear all the time. Yeah. Well, here's our data. I'm a big data-driven guy, processing systems and data guy, and so it takes about 100 to 150 applications to get probably 2 or 3 interviews to hire one person. Yeah. Now, here's the problem that I hear all the time. It sucks because you only go through about 12, 15, or 20. You get desperate and you just grab somebody with a pulse.
You've been 2 days interviewing and it's wasted your time. So you're like, okay, I got to get back to work, right?
If they show up, right? I mean, so that seems to be the problem. And what our system has done is while I'm sleeping on Sunday with my family, okay, I'm getting applications pouring in that are already semi-vetted and automatically scored based on some pre-screening questions that we have. So when I wake up in the morning and my team, there could be 35 applicants in there with a certain score that's been automatically calculated based on industry-specific questions of that sort of $12 to $20 an hour blue-collar labor.
Exactly.
That's really that's the beginning of it.
You said it better than me when I said they were sorted into bins, but you got the pitch down a little bit better. But as we were talking, I was like, people need to hear this because I know, there's a lot of people struggling with this, and it kind of blew my mind when you said, 100 to 120 people is what it takes to get one person. No one has time to do that, right? Exactly. And if you can just maybe touch on the price, because everybody's like, oh, well, what's the price, right?
Yeah. And I appreciate that question, because typically when people think of staffing companies or recruiting agencies, that's not what we are. I don't know of another company that does what we do. There's a ton of application tracking systems and platforms and software and all this nonsense and job boards. But typically what happens is you've got to pretty much train yourself. You got to sort of understand the questions you need to ask and all these other things that go. It took me 10 months to put ours together. It's not an easy thing.
Yeah.
Since we've already got it put together, and I'll give you an example. Indeed has a program where they say they'll recruit for you and they'll charge you just 10% of the first year's annual salary for somebody. Well, in our line of work, that could be 30 grand, 40 grand, maybe 50 grand if you've got maybe a lead technician of some sort or another. That's $4,000 or $5,000 for one person. Our blue collar industry, okay, that pays maybe $12 to $20 an hour, that's not good. And you don't know who you're going to get. That's a lot of money to pour out for one human being. Our price, one of our prices starts out at $497. That's for 4 weeks of recruiting. Normally we have a setup fee of $350, but for anybody of yours that's listening to this, we're waiving that completely. Normally we charge $597, and honest to goodness, it's going up to $797 in June. We'll certainly honor that into June though for your listeners here.
So can we make up a coupon code on the fly here?
I just did verbally.
Perfect. So just mention the Blue Crocus experience if you're reaching out to Shawn, and he'll honor that, because this will probably land in a couple weeks. So he's kind of extending a deal they have on now. I think just for a few more days.
Yeah, and that's 4 weeks of recruiting. And what we normally do is we'll recruit for 4 weeks. So there's a lot that goes into that. We normally have somebody fill out a profile form, we call it, which basically gives us a bunch of information of who you are. And I'm going to touch on something in a minute because culture is very important. It's important for two reasons. One is recruiting wise and job description wise, and setting expectations for who you want to get hired or who you want to interview. And then for back to your point, when you talked about retaining those employees, there's nothing more important than culture to retain employees. And we'll touch on that in a little bit here. So for $497, okay, you're saving almost $450, $500 by being part of this audience and extending it into June. We'll recruit and we'll find and guarantee at least one good hire for you for that $497, not $4 grand, not $5 grand. If you happen to need more than one person and you hire 2 or 3 people, we don't charge more for that. We've had plenty of clients over the years that have gotten 3 or 4. I can't guarantee that for everybody, obviously. And this is mainly for sort of those technicians. It's not for an operations manager, a CFO, or a salesperson. It's mainly your guys that are going out. I can include probably a truck driver or something like that in there. But we're not doing a management or a sales or C-level type of people for that.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I appreciate you kind of walking through that, because this is a little bit of a different tack that I've taken. Usually I'm talking to people about how they started their business and all of that sort of stuff. But I think this is so relevant. I think it's, there's got to be 1 or 2 people listening to this that, either are going to expand down the road or are struggling with it now. I keep going back to it, but I've done polls in the paving groups, tree groups on Facebook. And the biggest thing is either jobs or people to do the jobs. Like it's one of the 2 problems that people are having. So.
Yeah, it is. And it's, there's nothing more frustrating than that either. When you get 3 interviews set up and nobody shows up, and that's very common. It's the worst one for me is when they do show up and 10 seconds into the interview, you're going to yourself, there's no way this dude's getting in front of any of my clients, but you waste 20 minutes being professional and nice and go through the motions and this and that. I used to hate that. And even worse than that, and I hear this a lot, and I've been in this situation when I didn't know what I was doing, and a lot of us are. Again, I'm just a business owner like you guys. I've hired literally thousands of people between that $10 to $20 an hour labor market. Okay, thousands. And one of the things that is the most frustrating thing on earth, being a business owner, working your rear end off, and you have somebody that is, you should fire. Maybe 2 people, and you're afraid to because you're going to be short-staffed. Then how are you going to get that job done? You're going to lose a client. You got to reschedule. It's a nightmare, and they know it. And we're never in that situation anymore, ever. And I know people listening to this. I know you're either in it right now or you've been in it, and there's hardly anything worse than that. you lose control of your business and then think about your A employees, the ones that are working their rear ends off with you for 5 years or 10 years, and they're starting to scratch their head going, why is that person not fired? I wake up every morning, I get here early, I've been working my rear end off for ABC Cleaning Company or paving or roofing or whatever it is, and this clown comes in whenever they want. They got an attitude problem, and they've been here for months. It ruins your culture. And when that happens, you better put your business up for sale, because that's a nightmare. That's a nightmare.
Yeah. So maybe that segues well into the culture question, because another thing along the same veins is, I have people, but they don't show up. They don't pull their weight, or I'm worried when I leave the job site, they're not doing anything. They work hard when I'm there, but I leave and I just know they're not either doing a good job or they're not staying motivated. So maybe segue into what you guys have done, or what you've seen people do, or what you're working on to develop good culture in the different businesses that you own and purchase.
By far the most difficult thing, in my opinion, in business, we bought a company, and 3 hours on the first day when me and one of the other owners were there, I told him, I said, this is going to be extremely difficult because these guys think they're in a union. And nothing against unions. I got friends that are in unions, uncles that are in unions, and all that. I have nothing against unions. But when you have to call the office and somebody from the office has to drive out to the job site and wonder what you should do if the person isn't home, that's ridiculous. I mean, literally, I said, I want to know, everybody in the room, raise your hand if you have children. Raise your hand if you have pets. How in the hell can you take care of kids and pets if you can't make these decisions on your own? It was a culture thing, though. It was a very successful business before we bought it. They did great. They were there 30 years and did wonderful, huge business. But it was a different culture. So culture goes on what your vision is and what your leadership style is and where you want your company to go and how you want to treat people. And so that's a very difficult thing. And most people, because it's difficult, most business owners don't take the time to figure that part of their business out.
Get the process down.
It's big. And one of the things that I have a difficulty with our clients that ask us to recruit for them is, one of the things that we do is we create the job titles and job descriptions. And I've done an awful lot of homework on this and keywords and all that. I feel like I'm in your line of work with the SEO keywords and log tags and all. It's very similar. It really is.
Calling a sneaker a tennis shoe.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Yeah. Right. And so to your point, in Cleveland, Ohio, I've never heard of a soda. I don't know what the hell a soda is. When I want something to drink, I order a pop. Okay. Yeah. Or a Dortmund or whatever. But
I've used that analogy. I've used that analogy like 5 times since we talked.
Yeah. And that goes, so we get a lot of times, we'll get people in our business because we're business owners and we want to be professional, and most of us have there's associations for everything. There's an association for blowing my nose. I mean, everybody's got an association. All associations lift up that industry to be professional and grow and learn, right? And that's great. So, but what happens is, we're hiring a $15 per hour person, and we're using terms like, hey, I'd like an engineer technician that can mop a floor. Hey, what the hell are you talking? You need somebody to clean. It's a cleaner. And what we do is there's so much that goes into a job title and job description that can really hurt your application flow if you don't know what you're doing. And I can go on for hours. That's a whole different topic of itself. So we do the job titles, job descriptions, and I'm going way too far to pull it back to the culture thing. If the profile form that we have prospective clients and clients fill out tells us, one of the questions, I need to know your culture.
So if I'm looking for someone, I fill out a form that basically so talk to me a little bit about what you ask people. So if I'm coming to you to find someone to do, let's say I need a raker for paving.
Yep. So you need a raker for paving. One of the things that I need to know is, what's your culture? What's your paycheck going to be? You know, I've got people that tell me one thing, and then the person starts work and the paycheck's, you know, $400 a week instead of $800 a week. Like they said, they told me on the profile they filled out that that's what it was. Culture. Well, we care about our employees, and we, you know, we care about we're family. We hear that a lot, that family thing with culture, which is beautiful, until somebody shows up late because their kid's just been diagnosed with autism and you're wondering why he's late and you want to fire him. Well, that's not a good thing if you told me that that's what you care about. Okay. And I can go on and on with that. I mean, what is your culture? If it's family oriented, you better damn well care about that child and that family. And that might mean you need to be a little flexible on some things with that, if that's your culture. If your culture is not that, then that's fine. Whatever your culture is, you know, it's got to match the job description, because you're setting the expectations. And when somebody walks through that door that very first day, and there's 3 dudes outside smoking cigarettes, and they're saying, effing this, and they're this, and this sucks. I can't tell you how many times I've seen, and it was in companies that we bought too. You know, the first day somebody quit because I'm all pumped up. We found this great, you know, great new employee, and I'll follow up with him. How's Joe doing? How's Jane doing? Oh, she quit in a week. Well, what happened? I used to, I don't have time to do it now, but my staff does. We would follow up and call Jane or Joe. Well, I got there and everybody was bitching about the company. And it's like, if you have that culture, I'm just going to say it very, you know, I don't beat around the bush, because I'm bullshitting and I don't do that. If you have the culture where you're a part of that, and if you allow it, you're a part of it. You might not pile on that, but you're allowing it, you're a part of it. Your leadership is horrible. Your leadership is horrible. You need to, and I get it. It's fun a little bit. And I understand, and I'm being honest, and I get that. But if you want to grow your company and have great employees and retain good employees, that nonsense can't happen at your company. I've never seen a successful company grow and retain good employees and allow that to happen on day 1 or day 2 or day 3. And let me add a little bit to that. So you need to be bionic on that. We have somebody that is at the door waiting for a new employee to come, and they are literally assigned. I can't remember what we call them now, because I'm not in that end of the business anymore. I'm in more recruiting than at our locations. They're there at the door as sort of a greeter. That is your job in the next hour in that morning, is to know that person's name, a little bit about them from their resume and stuff like that. Open up that door for them and invite them in for coffee. Invite them in, and you say hello, and you love that human being coming in. Why on earth would you spend money going after a human being to pay them a ton of dough and then treat them like crap? Can you please explain that? You go out here, you treat that person like a king or queen until it's time not to.
No, that's awesome. But I mean, because you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot at that point, right?
Absolutely. If you're going to hire somebody, you know. And there's this old saying, what is it? Hire slow, fire fast. I call BS on that. I say hire fast, fire fast. Why the hell are you going to hire slow? Hire fast, get them in, train them, love them. They're a king and queen. I mean, whatever line of work you're in, and I'll give it window cleaning, $100,000. That's what one technician brings into our company. $100,000 a year. Now, Mr. Jones might pay us $500 to clean some windows. Tell me who's more important, that $100,000 a year revenue generating human being, or the $500 one called Mr. Jones? Who you going to treat like a king? Who you going to treat like a queen? It's a no-brainer to me.
You want to bring in more money?
Absolutely, $100,000. I don't know what a raker might bring in. I don't know what, or if they're missing and they don't show up to work, right? You know, it's time to stop the nonsense and time to get your culture straightened around and put a lot of thought into that. I mean, get online. I don't care what, go find a guru, get a coach, get on YouTube, whatever it is, and figure that piece out. If you can figure that piece out, your culture, supply, or in our case, so you got culture, and then you've got capacity and demand. those things right there in that circle, and you're going to be a very wealthy human being.
So one of the things I'm doing, like I'm looking to scale my business fairly soon, actually, and so I'm kind of putting out feelers for people that might be a good fit for working with me and having the vision and stuff. So I'm kind of listening to this from a perspective of someone who's wanting to learn as well, and that's usually why I get people on the show is to learn from them and hopefully add value to other people as well. But say I had a tree company and it's just been me for forever. I grind some stumps, I cut some trees, but I'm getting enough work now that I need to get more people. My first thing is I'm probably going to call my cousin and I'm going to see if they're free on weekends, right? And then eventually, that doesn't work out. So at what point do you see the dilemma here? A lot of people are stuck in, growing a business by like bootstrapping is fantastic and using family is wonderful, but there's more stories of family helping family and businesses and falling apart than there is, good stories of it going well. So talk to me, I'm Joe the tree cutter, and what do I do? When do I know that I've got to, find help or at least figure out my culture or get processes in place? What do I do?
Yeah, great question. And that is a difficult decision to make. In my opinion, you need to jump in with both feet and make a decision. If you're looking to hire your cousin, you're looking to half-ass grow, right? Because your cousin's there for being helped in a situation where you need to just get a pulse. You trust somebody. It's easy, right? It's easy. You don't have to spend a lot of time, no money, and it's so easy. Easy doesn't work in business 90% of the time.
Yeah,
it just doesn't.
You get out what you put in, right?
Yeah, exactly. It will for a month or two, okay? And so all that. I would say, in my opinion, the ABCs of recruiting, always be recruiting. ABC, always be recruiting. And I mean that wholeheartedly. It's one of the game-changing things that we put into our system. And that is this. If you think you need somebody, it's time to recruit. If you think you need, what does that mean? So let's say that you have a perfect amount of people, a tree, we're talking trees, right? We're talking guys going up or on the ground or whatever, okay? Let's say we're talking climbing trees, because that's where the big bucks is. If you go up there, we can hire a lot of good people to pick the stuff up off the ground and put it in a chipper and all that.
Yep.
So we're talking about that guy with a couple years that is safe, knows how to do the harnesses and all that. Up there, if you think about this for a minute, if you think you need somebody, you need to be recruiting like yesterday. Now you hired somebody. Let's say you did it on your own, or I found somebody for you. You hire somebody, everything's working out great. You turn on, Shawn, we're good. Thanks for that 4 weeks of recruiting. Thank you so much, and you're done. Okay. One of the biggest mistakes you can make. When you do not need to hire somebody immediately, still recruit. Recruit. We call that the hopper strategy with us. We literally not just recruit, but we set up interviews, and we set up an interview and say this, Fred, you're fantastic. We just don't need somebody right now, but our business is growing like crazy. You're fabulous. I think we can place you in a week or two. If you find something else, hey, good for you. I'll wish you all the luck. No hard feelings. But I thought we might need you sooner. And we have 3 or 4 people like that in our hopper.
Yep.
We're never short-staffed. When we have a manager assigned, if that hopper gets 1 or 2 people out of it, it's time. We never there's always 3 to 5 people in our hopper. Interview as though we'd hire them tomorrow. And there's nothing unethical about that. So here's what we used to do. We would say, oh, perfect. Our Cincinnati office would grow like crazy. Everything's great. 4 people quit that week. Or 2 people quit that week, and 1 got a DUI and the other one broke his ankle. Honest to God, everybody out there that's got more than 3 employees, that's how it happens. Everything happens in 2s or 3s like that.
When it rains, it pours, as my mom always says.
Exactly. Yeah. Have that hopper. So if you think you need to hire somebody, you need to have 2 or 3 people that you've interviewed. Hire one of them. And what's the worst thing that can happen? What's the worst thing that happens out of that? How do you waste time finding awesome people, even if you don't need to hire them? And if you get a rock star that you're just thrilled with, that might give you a little bit of incentive to call you up and say, you know what, maybe here's another 500 bucks a month or 1,000 bucks a month because this tree guy is super good. And guess what? He's going to bring in tens of thousands of dollars to my company. Here's another 1,000 bucks, Lou. Give me some more business.
Yeah.
You don't want that guy to go away. And,
Yeah.
and that's how you grow a business. You got to do it that way.
So, you know, this is probably a little bit more applicable to someone who's got good processes in place, because you can't just hire forever if you're still struggling to figure out your processes. And that kind of goes back to what you're saying, you know, even if you're a one-man show, I think personally, you know, before you hire someone, I've been talking to a couple of people, and I'm realizing I've got to get my processes in place, because otherwise I'm just bringing on board this mess that's floating around up here. I know where everything is, but there's no way that I can, you know, processize it. So, you know, if you are the one-man show, get your stuff in order is what you're saying, and you know, get a couple people, start growing. It all depends on where you want to go with it too, right? If you always want to stay small and only have a couple people, maybe the constant offer strategy isn't quite as applicable. But if you want to go fast and grow big, then you definitely want to get a good strategy in place for hiring.
And that's exactly right. There's nothing wrong with being an owner operator and having a cousin or a kid help you out. I've got plenty of buddies that are on excavators, and I've got a buddy of mine that owns an asphalt company. And, you know, his dad started it. Doug took it over 30 years ago or whatever it's been. And Doug's got, you know, 40 employees doing a few million a year. And, you know, and my buddy John's got his son and him on an excavator, and he's doing very well for himself. Yeah. And yeah, that's two totally different things.
And he's happy with that, because some people don't want to be bit managers, right? Like they like what they do and they want to keep doing it. So at that point, you know, do what you like doing. Don't force yourself to go.
You know what? And anybody that listens to this, I loved, and you know this from our conversation, and you can probably hopefully tell from how I get enthusiastic about this.
Yeah.
I love talking shop. If you want to message me, if you want to call me, if you want to whatever, on Facebook, message me or whatever, look me up. It's easy to find on technology, right? Just message. I'll talk shop with you all day long. I don't care. You know, if I'm on the phone or doing these a lot, but you know, if we schedule something, you got me for 30 minutes, which will probably turn into an hour, and it's free advice. I mean, and I'll probably hope to get your business one day.
Yeah.
In fact, for your listeners, and we'll have to figure this out. I've got a blueprint that I'll give to anybody that's listening to this or watching this. Yep. And it's called our Blue Skies Blueprint, Recruiting Blueprint. And it's a 35-page thing that we had put together a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, at a huge convention that we were giving away for free. And I'll give it, and it basically is our system. It's got the questions and all these other things that could be pertinent to your industry, and it's yours. And we would tell people, if you can use that and do it on your own, and you have to call me once or twice if there's a question, good for you. We want that. There's nothing that would make me happier than you being successful in business and used our system to do it. If you don't want to waste a lot of time and you don't want to have to implement a whole new system that took me 10 months to figure out, okay, we can get this done for you and very quickly.
And that's exactly why I brought you on, because that's the sense I got when we were chatting too. It's the same values that I bring to the table. I'll talk to someone for a couple hours running through exactly what I would do if they were to bring me on to help with their website or lead generation or anything, because I just want to see people win, you know. Exactly. And then you're gonna get the odd people that are like, okay, well, can you do it for me? And then I'm like, yeah, absolutely. But you know, we're all in this together. I think that the rising tide lifts all the boats. You know, one person doing well is not going to crush you because you're not doing well. More than likely, he's going to be happy to reach out and help you. I think a lot of business owners are very small-minded and think everybody's out to get them. But you know,
I couldn't agree more, and I was one of those.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I was like that, and we started the recruiting thing, and I would hear that somebody else in the industry, and now there's 3 or 4 people in the industry that have their own platforms and how to recruit, and the cool thing is, I had one of them on Facebook Live, and we chatted it out to all, 700 people in my group. We had like 1,500 listeners that night.
Yeah.
And so we just talked about it. Now there's another one that I might use his platform
Yeah.
So you can, there's, this is probably an old word, but I'm an old guy. Synergy, right? That's called synergy. At least that's what it used to be called. I don't know what it's called nowadays, but there's not, why grab your competition by the throat and say, hey man, let's get together and have a Facebook Live. We'll chat it out. We'll talk it out. We'll all learn. We'll all get better for that.
Exactly. And the worst thing that's going to happen out of that is he's like, I'm swamped right now. You go see Shawn, right?
Right. Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
So, yeah. And I was in exactly the same place as you were, starting my business. I'd invested a ton into learning and getting it off the ground. So I was like, all right, I got to go cut through it. And I remember being in a couple of groups, kind of browsing, looking for people who might need a hand. And I saw someone posting tips, and I was like, oh man, like another guy got them before I did. And so I got that pit of the stomach feeling. And I struggled with that, right? Like every time I saw someone, there's tons of people doing what I do. Now I'd like to think there's no one that's as willing to help people and offer value. But that came about. I say this all the time. I read a book called The Go-Giver, recommended to me by a mentor. And basically the whole concept of the book is give way, 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 way more than you want to receive.
Exactly.
And that's, I can attest to the growth that I've seen in the last couple of months is because I've hopped on with people for a couple hours, not expecting anything in return, right?
Yeah, that's a big deal. One of our core value, and we call them core behaviors of Blue Sky Services, is having a servant's heart. And that is serving people. My leadership style has always been serving my people.
Yep.
And it's and I surround myself with people that are smarter than me in the areas I know I'm not good at.
Yeah.
That's called wisdom, and you need to be humble to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
I always get a question, what's my biggest regret in business? I'll get that question a lot. And the number one regret I have is not being humble enough and thinking I knew how to do things my way better, and nobody's I wish I would have gotten a coach or a consultant that was in the business, that was successful, that had their system put together that I could learn from. But I didn't do that, and I wasted, I'd say, tens of thousands of dollars. It might have been hundreds of thousands of dollars. I could have had my business to the point that it took me 20 years to get, I could have had in 7 years or 5 years.
Yep.
And it's an expensive thing to do sometimes, but look for people that, like you say, that are willing to give some free value, good content, whatever you want to call it. And that's what we do. I've got a Facebook group. If you don't mind me saying, I got a Facebook.
But I'm all about spreading the love here.
A Facebook group called Blue Collar Recruiting. It's called Blue Collar Recruiting. We've got cleaning companies, window cleaners, we've got gutter cleaners, lawn service, painters, pavers, roofers, all kinds of different contractors in that group. We've got chimney sweeps, masons, you name it. We've got them, and we a lot of times what we do, and I'll have you on, if maybe we can get together on the next one or two and get together and have you on, because we have a lot of people that own companies that are hiring salespeople. And people are scratching their head. I own a power washing company. How can I afford to hire a salesperson to do this and that and the other? And we've got some very successful. I've got a company called Ecotech in Baltimore area. In 1 month, we recruited and found him 5 salespeople. A power washing company. Okay.
Yeah.
Over a dozen techs to go out and do the work. We got him an operations manager, so we can do those things. It's not always included in every single service we provide, but we can do that for you, and it doesn't cost an arm and leg. He pays $350 a month, and we got him all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot we can do, but yeah, I mean, there's if you E-Myth, that's my Bible next to my Bible. Okay, Michael Gerber.
Figure out what you're good at and do that.
McDonald's, that's what he talks about a lot. If you guys can get, and gals out there, if you can get your businesses operating like McDonald's, okay, I got news for you. You're going to be very wealthy. You're going to be very happy in life. This is the biggest restaurateur on planet Earth, billions of dollars, and all they're doing is hiring minimum wage to $12 an hour people to operate that business. Operate that, and it's one thing. Must be the healthiest burgers in the world. Cheapest? I can go across the street to Chestnut Tavern and get one for $5. Big Macs are $6 now, and French fries and all that. Not the cheapest, okay? Yeah. So it must be what? It must be, you know, the best tasting burger in the world, right? What else could it be? It's called systems and consistency.
You always know what you're getting.
Consistency. Every single time it looks the same, smells the same, tastes the same. And in every, not just in this country or that country, all around the world, human beings say, you don't have to be perfect, but as long as you're consistent, you can't do that unless you have good employees. You can't be consistent without a good culture and a good recruiting system put together and retain those people.
And that's where, you know, if you want to stay small, but if you want to scale, you really got to figure out what kind of a business owner you are. If you prefer to be the person out there cutting the trees or raking or running the paver or whatever it may be, then you got to find someone that can run your business for you, because you can't be doing both. And that's, yeah, I would highly recommend the E-Myth as well. It kind of it showed me some things that I've got to find people to do the things that I'm not good at or that I don't want to do, right?
Yeah.
So say you've got the people, you've hired the people. Now, how do you keep them? You know, it comes back to culture, but you've got the people that don't show up in the morning. You've got the people that, you know, come in a little bit hungover, or they steal tools. These are problems that people are having. What would you say to those people?
Small things mean a lot. Small details mean a lot. It doesn't have to be this huge thing and this and that. Let me give you two examples that were pretty much game changers with our own company. And I know it has been with others because we've talked about it, and they're very specific. One is have a career ladder. It's so difficult to hire somebody that's a raker, that's especially your general labor stuff. In our business, it's a power washer, or a cleaning technician, or a maid, or, you know, maid service and things like that. But you can bump them up, and we came up with a career ladder in each of our businesses, and we came up with not just like these, again, it was fun. It wasn't technical terms. We came up with, I came up with this 5 years ago, and I'm not in that part of the business that much, but I can't remember, but it's like ninja, and then black belt, and then whatever, you know, epic. I mean, literally, it was an epic technician.
Yeah,
and what that meant was you made $50 a month more, and you had a little bit more responsibility, and then we might have given you something else. But it's a career ladder. It's something to aspire to. Now, we have plenty of people that just wanted to clean houses or whatever, you know, plenty of people like that. That's fine. But give them this opportunity. You know, what's a raise? Here's a raise. Give them a title. Give them, here's what you need to aspire towards. It's more than just $1. And anybody out there that's picked up a business book and has read into a few things or got on YouTube or whatever knows that money isn't always the thing that people want. We think it is. I always think it is, but it's not. It's recognition, and it's something to aspire for. Think about that. And we had levels like this. We had 10 levels. Think about this. A house cleaning company. And we had 10 levels of different things we called. And one had gift card, one had gas card, one had more money, one had this. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Did everyone know this going in?
Absolutely.
Yep.
We made it part of the training. Everything. It was a big deal. It was a big deal. We had blue bucks. We're Blue Sky Services. We would call them blue bucks. When you got to a level, you earned 50 blue bucks. And by the way, when you earn 100, you get one paid day off. And our cleaning techs made like $100 to $120 a day. We'd only pay them $50, and they were fine with that.
Yep.
You don't have to pay them $120. You can, and that's fine. But we'd say, take a day off. Here's a $50 bill. Have a good day. That's not a bad thing. And then the other thing is this. So that's one thing. And this is very simple. And probably a lot of you might do this out there. Monday morning, have either the owner or somebody that's the manager cook breakfast for every employee. Cook it. Get a griddle, get a whatever I'm not talking about going to McDonald's and here's a sack and let's sit around and eat. They need to see the owner or a manager with a flipper in their hand, a spatula in their hand like SpongeBob, making something in the morning and serving your people. And
Wow.
that changed the life of our Minnesota operation. Changed it completely. Nobody missed Monday, and it was talked about all the time. Think about not missing Monday if you got employees out there. Right?
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
So
It cost us $1.75 an employee each Monday, and that was it.
What would you serve? Like coffee and eggs or something?
Like sausage McMuffin type of sandwiches, coffee and juice. And that's
nice. So when would you start your day normally on a typical weekday? Like what time in the morning? What time in the morning would you start the day typically?
Normally between 7:30 and 8 in the morning.
So would they come in before that for breakfast, or would they come in?
Yeah, we have at 7 o'clock. We call it the breakfast meeting.
Nice.
I think they call it the breakfast club or something like that. So you come in at 7, half hour early. Everybody, maybe if you show up a little bit late, that's fine. It wasn't a hassle there. Be here by 7:30 because we're going to start at 7:30. But that was it. Come at 7. And even if you ran a little bit over, it's relaxing. It's okay. Let's have some fun.
It's worth it for the getting your people there and getting the camaraderie there.
Right, and we would know now. In different industries, it's different, but we would know on the schedule that we were going to be an hour later, just in case, because we don't want any pressure that morning. We want it to be fun. We want to serve our people, and there's no pressure or stress on Monday morning. That's huge.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So how many people would you be doing, basically this little barbecue for?
In Minnesota, it was probably 15 people. In Cleveland at one time, it was probably 15 people. Cincinnati, maybe 20 people, and 35 people in St. Louis.
So decent size.
Yeah.
So that's a really good one. I like that. The only one I had heard similar to that is a guy took his guys out to lunch every day. So he had,
great.
I think he had like 5 guys. This was a tree guy, and he took people out to lunch every day. He paid for lunch. He said, I'd like to keep doing this as big as I get. We may have to think of something a little bit, cheaper, but it's, he bonds with the guys. They know he's there. So yeah, I love that Monday morning thing because it kind of kills 2 birds with 1 stone because it gets them there. Absolutely. It's free food, and it gives them a little buffer to get into if they're, running a little bit behind.
Yeah, and people talk about their weekend and all, it's fantastic because it gets a little personal. We talk about our weekends. It's not just about work. On Monday morning,
because everybody's going to do that anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And with your boss serving you food, that's not a bad gig. That's not a bad place to work. That's not a bad place to work, Yeah. And the attitudes change at that point too. What happens is, if my boss is actually, and Dan in Minnesota had a big chef hat, he had his apron. I think he bought an apron that said something goofy on it.
Yeah.
It cost like $6 for the apron, and he found a hat somewhere. His wife found it or something, or he didn't go out and spend $40 for this hat. Simple.
But even if you did, who cares, right?
Right. And your employees know that. Or you can just come in and tap your foot and start immediately talking about the day, get this thing, and what fun is that? What kind of culture is that?
Yeah, because you're dealing with humans and they want to be treated like humans, right?
Absolutely. And we talked about this too. Let's face it, we don't hire people that have $50,000 in a savings account, driving brand new cars and Porsches and Mercedes. People have problems. Have problems. And sometimes they're going to talk about their problems on that Monday morning, that weekend, right? And people think I'm crazy when I say this, but when I had my own business, I had 38 employees at one time, just my cleaning techs. I had some office staff too. So I had over 40 employees. And I actually enjoyed tough conversations with one-on-one with my employees. I enjoyed it. I loved it. Yep. And I'm not talking about they were late, your quality sucks, and that's an easy conversation. Get to work, or we got to write you up, and you go. I wish you luck, but that's it. That's easy. Yeah. And I'll give you an example. We had somebody that I noticed the quality scores going down. We got quality scores for every cleaning. And I said, man, this isn't like her. What's going on? And I happen to be like in Cleveland, but the office was in Cincinnati. Never met her, but I talked to her, and I knew her scores. and they were dropping. And I called her manager and I said, what's going on with this? Her name was Asia. And this is 4 years ago. Anyway, so I said, you need to talk to her and find out here's what happened. She was too embarrassed to tell us that her boyfriend jammed all her credit cards to the max, left her and her son in an apartment by themselves that she got kicked out of. She was living in a car with a 5-year-old son. Too embarrassed to say anything. Okay. And I said that, and she was a great employee for a long time. And I said, that can't happen. So we got to do something. So me and the manager down in Cincinnati, I said, you call every church around, you call whatever you got to call. We finally, literally at like 11 o'clock that night, we found a church that would take her and her kid in. We said, get the hell in there. They got food, a shower, whatever you guys need, get there. And I said, Asia, I want the phone number to your landlord. I called the landlord the next day and I said, dude, you don't know who I am. I don't know who you are, but there's a tenant in whatever the hell room it was in.
Yeah.
That if she's not back by the end of the day, I am going to spend as much money as I need to spend to make your life as miserable as I can with three of the best lawyers I know. And I'll mortgage my house if I have to until you're dead in the ground. Get her in that. I don't care. I will make sure you're taken care of with the money. And literally, that's what we did.
Yeah.
And she got back in there that same day. But that was somebody that was a great employee, but you've got to know what's going on with your employees. When you see that goes like this.
Well, and the loyalty,
Something's going on.
loyalty of her after that you've done it. Like she owed you her living at that point, right? So she's going to work as hard as she possibly can to make you guys happy after that, right?
And there's so many people like that they have problems that they don't think they're worthy as it is anyway of things.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always used to tell my really, really good employees, and sometimes I had a great employee that was really good for 3 years and ended up dating a guy, got hooked on heroin because he's a heroin. He did, she did. And I'm just like, what happened?
Yeah.
So I got her help, all that. But those, whether it works out or not, these are human beings.
Exactly. Okay? We're all on this ride together, right? Yes,
and she happened to work out great after that. Whether what do they owe or not, I don't know. But if somebody's a good human being and has made you some money and made your life a little bit easier, showing up and taking care of things for you, don't you owe them at least a conversation to find out what's going on in their damn life and why something's bothering them? She was kicked out of her house, and you're an owner that doesn't know that.
Yeah.
You've got to have those tough conversations with people, and it might mean that you have that tough conversation, and no, you can't work for me on heroin because you're going to steal everything you can from everybody you're near. But I'll make a phone call for you, and I'll try to get the help.
Yeah. No, I love that. No, and a couple of the guys that I've chatted with, I talked to a paving guy, and he basically talked about the same thing. It's hard. I think, the poverty mindset goes back to you're not going to treat your employees well because you're going to think they're out to get you all the time too, right? If you think every other business owner is out to get you, maybe you should look at yourself before you keep complaining about your hires. But you were saying there were a couple things. The career ladder was one that were game changers for you. Do you remember the other one that you were going to chat about, or did we already cover it?
For retention. I think I said the breakfast thing was the other one.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Man, I think there's a lot of gold nuggets in here. If people can get through the sales pitch at the beginning, I'm.
You hear me selling the hell out of everything, right? I'm hardly even talking about it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's worthy of pitching, right? And because I think it solves a problem. And I've chatted with you enough to know that you're a business owner as well. You've been in the trenches. You are in the trenches, and you're in the process of working to make more businesses and all that happen. But I think there's a ton of value in here for people if they can latch onto a couple things, and that is accomplished exactly what my mission is. I got value out of it for sure. I like I think it just reinforces the fact I need to get processes in place. I've got to, discipline myself to work on that before I get people on, because it's not fair to get people on it until that's where you are, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would highly recommend anybody out there get Michael Gerber's book, E-Myth. A lot of us don't like to read, which is fine. I get it, but if you don't read for sure and you're not, there's plenty of YouTube stuff out there with him.
There's audiobooks. I mean, I'm listening to the audio version of it right now.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. It's but those things are hard. It's not easy to put systems together. It just isn't. I mean, and we still, with our recruiting business, we still put systems together and change them and processes, and they, it's a fluid, evolving thing. Really, truly is. And that's what growth is. If you're not growing, you're staring at a wall, and you're looking, and you're sitting in a corner. And even if you're just an owner operator, things change. I mean, technology changes. Phones change, everything. People.
You got to keep growing your customer base if you're not growing anything else, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
That's awesome. Well, Shawn, I think we got to wrap up here so that we can both get on with our evenings. But if you have one or two nuggets to kind of reiterate what you said, or to leave with the listeners before we wrap up.
Yeah, I mean, what I will say is, feel free to message me. I'll talk whatever you want to talk about, whether it's recruiting or whatever. Business, I'm great time with that. I have a good time with that. So feel free to do that. If I would highly recommend that if you're having issues with recruiting, or you want to scale up and you're not sure how, or you're a little afraid to or nervous to, that's everybody that's owned a business has been afraid of something or another. And that's usually one of those. It's right up there with bookkeeping. We all go into business to do bookkeeping, right? Right. So it's right up there with that. So let me know, and here's what we'll do. I'll get you the blueprint. You can have that for free. We never even talked. I don't think we ever talked about that. But that
we talked about it briefly, yeah. And I made a note here to include it in the show notes as well, so that they can get a hold of it.
I'll get you that, and then I'll have you fill out a profile. And what I'll do is a little bit of research in your area, because we're recruiting nationwide, because we have our own companies that are multiple locations around the country. We're probably in 40 some states right now that we're recruiting other companies or ours. And then I would say fill out the profile. So get a hold of me. I'll have you fill out a profile. Let me do research. It'll be free. And I'll say, you know what, I think I can help you here. It's very seldom that I can't, but I've had to in a couple. When you're up in a mountain up in Missouri somewhere, which is Sid, my buddy Sid that owns a window cleaning company, Sid, ain't happening, buddy. I mean, I just I don't know what to tell you, but when the postman is the mayor and the sheriff too, I can't help you. I just
he's gonna have to help you with cleaning.
You know what I'm saying? Right? Yeah. So there's some circumstances like that. I mean, Salt Lake City is a really difficult place to recruit. That's tough. So if anybody out there, that's tough. So anyway, but if we do that, there's a couple things I can do and say, hey, here's what I think. And you can do it on your own. That's great. And if you want my help, we can do that too. Awesome. And we're very reasonably priced. From it's basically a couple $100 a month, either a month if you go with us long term, or about $497 if you go with us for 4 weeks and don't want anything long term, which is fine. We can tailor something to whatever your needs are. Really.
There's really nothing to lose here, honestly. I'm looking into this. I've been as we were talking the first time, I've kind of been mulling over how I can, pitch the services that you offer to people that I know. I'm not affiliated with you in any way. This is just an avenue for people to, my goal is to help people in business. So if I can connect you with someone that can solve your problems, then that's made my day a good day, right? So.
Absolutely. And then I'm going to send everybody a link, or we'll post it maybe to the blue collar recruiting thing, Facebook group too. We do a 9 o'clock or Thursday nights at 9 o'clock. Tonight, well, this is kind of recorded maybe, so it doesn't matter. But tonight or Thursday nights at 9 o'clock, we do a Facebook Live with a ton of value and content. We usually have a guest host or two. And normally we have, if you like this, you can have one of those. If wine or coffee or water, whatever. I usually have one of those when I'm on mine or so, and we have a good
It's
time
called
there.
beer, BS, and bookkeeping, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. The CEO of Blue Sky Services is bookkeeping, beer, and BS, and he's a brilliant man. Does a ton of bookkeeping.
Is that Dan?
Dan Platter.
Dan Platter. Okay. Yeah.
Worked at Cargill. Traveled the world. Brilliant guy, and he's a blue collar guy. Right now, he's in Wisconsin fishing with his dad.
I love it.
But we like our beer. We like to have fun.
Yeah, no, and I've tuned into a couple of those. You know, you often have other business owners on too, or you're talking about stories of them, you know, scaling from nothing to something, right?
Yep.
So there's always little nuggets.
I'll tell you what, I'd love to have you on. If there's anybody that's listening to this that wants to get in touch with me, I'd love to learn more. I mean, I used to shovel asphalt for a living, so I know what the asphalt business is like.
Yeah.
It's 300 and some degrees on the truck, throw it down, and in Cleveland, Ohio, in August, it's 95 degrees. And so I understand how that is. I used to clean when I was 8 years old. I used to bale hay when I was 10 years old. Okay.
You've done a little bit of everything.
I don't have a silver spoon in my mouth. And if you did, that's great for you too. I don't care. But I'd love to have somebody else from your clientele, whether it's paving or tree. We have a number of cleaning tree companies that are with right now. Yeah. So we've got that. We got termite and pest inspection and roofers, and I know a lot of roofing companies around here where I live. One of them's a buddy of mine that we recruit for. Anything that is in that $10 to $20, $25 an hour range, okay, that's our specialty. That is. So
when you say you'd like to have people on, what kind of people are you looking to have onto the show?
Well, I'd like to have a business owner on that maybe has anything. I'd like to have somebody that is having problems with recruiting, and maybe have a conversation with me first, and let's talk about some things. And then I want to hear, we're going to talk about what your problems are in recruiting. And I'm not going to try to sell stuff on if you've ever seen a Facebook Live of ours, we don't do any selling really.
No.
It's here's a dude that owns a business, and here's the problems. And whatever problems you've had recruiting, trust me, I've had recruiting, okay?
Yeah.
I've had those problems, I know. We just happen to fix most of ours, almost all of our problems. But that doesn't mean that everybody out there, they want to hear from you. They want to hear a common story, and that we're all in this together. And I think that's just a cool thing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'll definitely keep my ear out too. I'd love to chat with you guys sometime, and maybe
we'll get you on for sure.
Yeah,
we'll get you on for sure. Maybe if not next Thursday, the Thursday after, we'll have to talk about that.
Sure. Yeah. No, Thursdays are the night that I book off for work anyway, so that would work well.
Sure.
Yeah, no, guys, definitely get in touch with Shawn. I'll put the links in the description, both on YouTube and in the Spotify and Apple Podcast descriptions for the link to what you guys do, your website, and then I'll also put in mention Blue Crocus experience for your kind of extension on the discount that you guys have going right now, and get in touch with Shawn for the recruiting blueprint.
Absolutely.
And I mean, if you've made it this far listening, then you've hopefully gotten a couple of golden nuggets out of it as well, because I think there's some good content in there.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. No, I was really glad to connect. I'd seen you kind of moving and shaking in some other groups, and I wanted to pick your brain on what it was that you guys were doing. So I really appreciate it, Shawn. And what I'll do is I'll just end the recording here. We can chat briefly and finish up and roll out.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, everybody.
Awesome. Cheers.